Woman, on the whole, is a timid thing. The din of war, the flash of steel, unnerves her. But, wronged in love, there is no heart more murderous. First episode, lines 73 through 76, Euripides' Medea. I never had a temper before being pregnant. I was reasonable, controlled. I didn't want to cause conflict. I was basically a stellar member of the chorus. In ancient Greek tragedy, the chorus is this clump of community members, all witnessing and commenting on the actions of the protagonist, or the tragic hero. The tragic hero usually steps outside the norms of polite society, grabbing at chances, taking risks, throwing the dice, losing, suffering, living fully. The chorus, on the other hand, reacts, shuns, tempers, judges. The Greek notion of tragedy, according to Nietzsche, is chaos, being outside the order of society, being outside the chorus. Most of the time, I don't want to be the protagonist, so I am usually part of some pathetically dull Greek chorus, all shuffling back and forth across the stage in a anti-strophe, all chanting the same lines, encouraging conformity in the actions of the protagonist. But now that I'm pregnant, my former stability has been peeled from me like the skin off a potato. I'm raw. Any emotion I feel flashes from impulse to action with no detour through my censoring brain. I've never thrown anything valuable in anger before. Now, I slam doors, I talk back. I've got a temper. Last night, I got mad at my husband, JP, because we didn't resolve a discussion I took more personally than he knew, and I threw our alarm clock against the wall. There was a moment in the throwing when I had no care for the physical damage that was venting my rage, no care for the worldly loss that would be suffered in payment for what I saw as an offense to my ideals. It was at that moment that I felt strangely elevated to the level of tragic hero. A tragic hero is a person more magnanimous than most, one who accepts consequences, grows in awareness of the human condition, gains a larger wisdom, one who gets what he pays for and pays for what he gets, one who elicits in an audience a series of alternating feelings of repulsion and attraction, and, according to Aristotle, one who is more daring, larger in spirit, magnanimous. Okay, now there are many who still think of these tragic heroes as all possessing a tragic flaw. But I agree with Arthur Miller when he wrote that a tragic flaw is not necessarily a flaw or a weakness, but rather the refusal to remain passive in a challenge to one's dignity. While pregnant, I used the Greek play Medea for a class of college freshmen in an introduction to theater class. I started the class out by saying, the play Medea is not interesting if Medea is an insane woman. Euripides is rallying for the cause of women here, and this play is his mouthpiece. He is saying, loud and clear, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. You know, I can tell that some of you didn't do the reading. Allow me to tell you the story. Jason was a strong, handsome, brave young man. In order to regain control over his father's kingdom, he first had to get back the golden fleece. Delighted by the adventure of it all, Jason and his Argonauts sailed off to Colchis. Once there, the Asiatic princess of the land, Medea, was struck by Cupid's arrow upon seeing Jason. She betrayed her own father, king of this land, because of her passionate love for Jason, and used her witchcraft to lull the fleece's guarding serpent to sleep, and steals the golden fleece from her own homeland. On board ship with the Argonauts, she assures her safe getaway by chopping up her brother and throwing bits of him into the ocean, which her pursuing father is obliged to pick up in order to give his son a proper burial. Off she sails with Jason, who promises her, "If you come to Greece, you shall be worshipped for what you have done for us. We shall be wed, and nothing except death shall come between us." But once they get back in Greece, they find out that King Peleus, who had sent Jason to go get the golden fleece, has killed Jason's father. Again, Jason turns to Medea for help. Revenge on King Peleus, which Medea generously serves out. She convinces King Peleus' daughters, no doubt the most gullible women in Greek mythology, that she has a magical potion that will restore their aging father to his vibrant youth. All they need to do is chop him up and stir the pieces into a magical brew of her concocting. Reluctantly, the girls do her bidding, but when they, with Dice Daddy, are ready for the restorative brew, Medea is nowhere to be found. Out of there! Off with Jason, her well-avenged lover, to live a life of exile in Corinth. Now this is where Euripides' play really begins. There as lovers, they live a simple yet elegant life, and have 2 sons with whom they are well pleased. All seems a picture of domestic bliss, until Jason turns a 180 on Medea. I know what you're thinking. Jason, you fool! She's not shy with her magic or her vengeful knife. But Jason turns into a scoundrel with no memory. He announces to Medea, quite off the cuff, that he has engaged himself in marriage to the young daughter of the king of Corinth. Luckily for Medea, under the law of this land, she can remain in his house as his concubine. And, best yet, this alliance will bestow noble status on their own 2 sons. Naturally outraged, Medea lets fall words that make the king of Corinth, Creon, fear for the safety of his daughter, Jason's bride-to-be, and banishes Medea and her 2 sons from Corinth. As Medea sits brooding, contemplating her sudden misfortune, wishing for death, Jason approaches. He offers her money for her travels. This is too much. You come to me, of all the race of men. Yet it is good you came, for I shall ease the burden of my heart if I can make your baseness manifest. I saved you. Every man in Greece knows that. The dragon men, the bull, the serpent water of the fleece. I conquered them and made you victor. Now you forsake me. I have had in you a loyal husband, to be admired of men. An exile now. Oh God. Oh God. No one to help me. I am alone. Jason discredits her, saying, "It was not you I was saved by, but rather Aphrodite, who made you fall in love with me. If only you had some common sense, you would see how beneficial this marriage is. Your exile is your fault only." Medea wastes no more words on Jason. She has something else in mind. Revenge. First, she determines to kill Jason's bride-to-be and decides not to think of what else she sees before her, like the consequences, for instance. She takes from her chest a most lovely gown and a golden crown. She anoints them with deadly drugs, places them in a casket, and sends them with her own 2 sons, a gift for their father's bride-to-be from their repentant mother. She instructs the boys to inform the princess that if she accepts the gift, she should show her consent by putting it on at once. The princess receives the boys graciously. She's delighted with the gift and puts it on. In it, she bursts into flames! Running through the palace in a terror, collapses, flesh curdling off the bone. All who witness this gruesome sight are horrified, but her father, Creon, upon seeing her, throws himself upon her, wailing, and finds himself stuck fast to her dying carcass. A ghastly wrestling match ensues, in which his own decrepit flesh is torn from the bone. At last, exhausted, he collapses and dies. King and princess, a pile of corpses. Now, it's no secret around the palace that Medea gave, and more specifically, her children, hand-delivered this deadly gift to the princess. Having enacted this first vengeful act, Medea allows herself to think of what must be done next. Something more dreadful than the last. She knew the king's guards would be coming for them. There was no protection for her children, no help anywhere. I will not let them live for strangers to ill use. I who gave them life shall give them death. And then she does the unthinkable. She murders her own 2 children. When Jason finds out what she has done, he comes in a fury, ready to kill her, banging on the door of her house. But Medea is already on the roof, 1 foot mounting a golden chariot drawn by dragons, ready to take her to her refuge, Athens, to live with Aegeus, with whom she has secured an alliance. The dead babies of her children are in the chariot. He hurls insults up to her. Poor children! What a monster fate gave you for a mother! Poor children! What a disaster your selfish father was! You think it right? It wasn't my hand that killed and struck him down. No, it was the pride, the lust of his new love. Do you think it's right to murder for a thwarted bed? And do you think that a thwarted bed is a trifling to a woman? A modest woman, yes, but to you, the world's worst crime. Jason's last request is that he be able at least to one last time touch his children's tender skin. And she says no, and flies off on her golden chariot, out of his sight as he curses her. That's the end of the play. As for my students, once Medea kills her own kids, she is lost to their sympathies. You know, Jason might be a jerk for reaping the benefit of Medea's witchcraft and womb, only to start chasing some young skirt. But Medea kills her own kids. My students don't even want to consider her case or the cause of women that Euripides is trying to get across because of what she does. I know they find it a bit confusing to be watching their pregnant teacher try to defend some child killer. But I can't help but want to defend her in their eyes, in the eyes of the world. This unstoppable desire confuses me. Greek scholars will admit this is a messy play. Almost nobody knows what to do with Medea. Okay, she was wronged, but she goes too far. On the other hand, it's one of the most widely produced of all the classical plays. Folks love it. Personally, I'm repulsed by her acts, but I can't deny that I feel some kind of solidarity with her. I'm not proud to admit it, but I identify with Medea's pride and the ferocity of her loyalty. She's not a good woman, but she's true to her passions, vehemently so. None of us are perfect, but we all want a perfect love. And remember, she's not one of us. She's a figure from mythology. And mythological figures are always a gross exaggeration of a human trait. We can't judge her actions with a human scale. She's a figure from mythology, a tragic hero. And tragic heroes don't stop to ask, what will this defense to my ideals cost in human terms? No! They act, they do, they step outside the lines. They all do, not just Medea. Okay, look at Hecuba. Agamemnon, he kills his own virgin daughter just to get good winds to sail by. But this argument doesn't work. I can't justify her revenge with other characters' bad behavior. You know what? I'm not interested in justifying her revenge. I'm not even interested in revenge. I hate violence. Revenge is what happens in this play, but it's not all that this play is about. Scholarship will tell us that Euripides is more a playwright of ideas than plot. Then what are the ideas in this play? The main idea in this play, I believe, is what it specifically means to a woman to have her love betrayed. It's not to say that men are never betrayed. It's just that this play isn't about that. When love is wronged, some piece of life is murdered. Life's worth plummets, taking with it all meaning, all hearts exiled. And now, here we are, nearly 2,500 years later. And how far have we come? Not so far that the act of Jason's betrayal doesn't stir some ancient dust of fury. And here I am, pregnant as a house, my belly filled with the promise of a man's seed. And the thought of Jason's traitorous course, the very possibility of infidelity itself, fills me with Medea's rage. She has the courage to assert that in the arena of romantic love, respect is the most important thing on earth. Respect your woman. Respect your bond of love, your passion, your promise. Euripides gets this. And in a time when women had no legal rights, no reasonable means for justice, seems to be saying, if you can't respect women and all that they hold dear, then fear them and their mighty wrath. In an effort to get my students to understand this play in the way that I want them to, I offer up the thought that once a human union of love is broken, nothing, no thing is of the same value. Everything changes. Love changes everything, and romantic passion is the strongest force on earth. Offend that and risk losing everything. But what I wanted to tell them, I couldn't articulate without trespassing a professor should keep with her students. I wanted to open up my flesh and show them that my skin demands only what is true from my lover. Instead, I made one last impassioned plea in the minute before the bell was to ring. At least have an opinion when Medea flies off in her golden chariot and won't let Jason even touch those babies. Did you scream, "You bitch!" Or did you shout, "You go, Medea"? Ring. As my students shuffle out of the classroom, I can tell that I convinced no one of Medea's righteousness. Au contraire, I only brought up doubts about my own. Allow me to say that scholarship and logic have their own inherent limitations. There are things I know from outside their domain. For instance, a pregnant woman is a person more magnanimous than most, one who accepts consequences, grows in awareness of the human condition, gains a larger wisdom, one who gets what she pays for and pays for what she gets, one who elicits in an audience an alternating series of feelings of repulsion and attraction, and according to, well, me, one who is more daring, larger in spirit, magnanimous.